Tom.
We are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Today on VIMTV, we're going to do, minus the bear, their 2010 release called Omni. It came out earlier this spring. We're getting back to it because we feel like it was good enough to check out. And I remember seeing Dredg a long time ago in concert, and I think that's where I found out that they toured with Dredg. I think they've toured with Dredg somewhere along there. And Tom just pointed out to me before we turned the camera on that they kind of sound like a split between Dredg and Maroon 5. But I think As Tall as Lions, Guster, My Morning Jacket, Jimmy Eat World, stuff in that kind of vein. But Tom, what'd you think?
Oh, well, you already kind of said it. I was really struck because Dredg and Maroon 5, I really think that's what this sounded like, a pretty even split. The other bands you said, right on also. But there are times where literally I could picture Gavin Hayes singing it with the rest of Dredg backing, you know, the instrumentals, and it would work with the songwriting, and I could see Adam Levine doing it back in the songwriting. Now, I'm sure I probably pissed a lot of people off with that comment. Here's the deal. I know a lot of people don't like Maroon 5. They are pretty poppy, but yeah, I do like them. And the thing that made me think of them from listening to this is you get that funky kind of those kind of chords that they just play with, you know, some wah and the effects, and this is very clean cut poppy production. So from that aspect, but then with some of the more prog elements, with some of the way the guitars work when they're more delayed or reverbed out, and just the vocal patterns remind me of the poppier Dredg songs. But really, this is a good album. Now, I know that a lot of Minus the Bear fans are kind of frustrated with this one. They think that it's a little too synthesized, a little too poppy. Well, let me tell you something. This band's been around since the early 2000s, and I took the time. I haven't listened to too much of their back catalog, only a little bit, but I took the time to skim through every other album that they have and look at the progression of the band. And to me, this makes sense. You know, maybe it's not their best work. I would have to listen to more of their back catalog to really assess that. But I think this makes sense as a logical next step. I don't think it's that much poppier than their old stuff. You know, mostly in the production, if anything, but the songwriting is actually pretty close to the same. So if you're complaining about that, really take a step back and think about it, because I don't think it's as big of a departure as you might think.
And I think describing things as poppy or alternative or not poppy, I think that kind of gets washed too, because it all becomes part of a person's perspective.
Yeah.
If you typically listen to poppier stuff, then this is not a poppy album at all. If you're in the middle, then this is right down your alley. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Some people listen to stuff that doesn't have anything to do with pop, like Deer Hunter or Women, where there's just hardly any pop elements there, and they go, oh my god, this is so poppy. Well, really, you got to understand that it's a scale. It's not black or white, pop or not pop. This is somewhere like 5 or 6 pop, 7.
Yeah, and you have to realize that the scale is bigger than what you listen to.
Right. There's a lot of music out there,
yeah.
And I don't think anybody, not even us who review 10 albums every 2 weeks, are going to say that we've listened to everything out there. I mean, clearly we haven't. Here's what I think. You know, Tom, you've talked a lot about the vocals on this album. And while you were talking about that, I was thinking to myself, I really don't remember a lot of the vocals. And, like, I've been thinking to myself,
especially in the verses.
You know, and
the choruses, they kind of shine.
Like, I remember, like, the way the guy's vocals sound, but I really, and maybe this, you know, I've listened to this, like, 5 or 6 times, I haven't really paid much attention to the vocals. And I know why, and that's not to say that the vocals are bad, like, I can remember what they sound like, but I could go on all damn day about 2 factors of this music that I think are just undeniably good. I think this is some of the best songwriting I've heard as far as just putting pieces of songs together and making overall songs. Some of the best songwriting I've heard in a long time. And production, holy crap. I listened to all of the albums that we listened to on really good headphones, and this album blew my mind. It just blew my mind. I've never heard production this good. I mean, I'm just blown away by it. In fact, I did some research, but I forgot it all, about who, like, produced it. He's done some other really big acts that are really well produced. So that's something that was a huge highlight for me. And it made me think that, you know, it was obvious to me that if a band, you know, hits me that hard with production and songwriting, obviously they slaved over, you know, the writing stage of making their music and the production stage. If their live show is as meticulous as that, then this might be one of the most talented bands out there right now. And that, I mean, that's coming from a guy who listens to a lot of music. So I mean, I like this. I didn't feel like overall this album was like an album that hits it out of the park for me. I still really think that there's some talent here that needs to be observed. Now, that also kind of goes into one big complaint I have. I called it a minor complaint, but really it's pretty big because it's what's keeping this out of the 90s for me. And that's the fact that this album, if this band is so talented, if they can do all these things that I'm saying and that they're doing, then why the hell are they making a 10-track album that really doesn't have a lot of conceptuality or isn't that gross in scope? You know, it doesn't have a lot of those qualities of those bigger albums that we've listened to.
And they touch on that in tracks 7 and 8, Into the Mirror, and then the way that reverses itself and flows into Animal backwards.
Thank you.
And that is an awesome little prog snapshot and conceptualization in the latter half of this album. And it leaves me wondering, why didn't they do that more? Because if they had done that more, this would have been like an LCA low.
Yeah, it would have. And one thing that I would even go further in saying is that I actually think that some of the songs like The Thief, maybe even Into the Mirror a little bit, and then Dayglow Vista Road track 9 on it, really kind of, I got to the point, especially in Dayglow Vista Road, where I was just like, by the end of the song, like, I was still enjoying it, but the problem was I wasn't connecting to the song because it was seeming redundant at that time. The album had already presented that idea of great songwriting, great production, and that general soundscape that they're showing you. They've already done that to me, so it was kind of like an old hat trick. You know, a magician doesn't get up on stage and show you the same trick 4 times. He'll show you one trick once and then move on to something bigger and better, and then save his best trick for the finale. That's what I want to see out of an album, and I don't think that this quite accomplishes that, so that's going to hold it back. When I think of good production, though, this is the album of 2010 I'm going to think of. And I also think that this is the album that I think of a really talented band is just really selling themselves a little short because I think they could do better. But Tom, I said I was going to give it an 80. I'm going to go 79. It's not quite 80. Okay. 79.
I'm going to go 78.
78. Just let out to be a 79. What do you guys think? A lot of fans think this is probably one of the worst Minus the Bear albums out, but I want to know what our viewers think.
I think Pitchfork gave this like a 20.
Oh my god.
Which is just
And
unjustified.
a lot of people, Ian Barker, you're one of these people. You follow Pitchfork pretty closely, and I'm a little worried because you should really aggregate your scores. I mean, don't just listen to us. Go out there and look at some of the other guys out there. There's some other video reviewers out there. Check them out on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Check out our subscribers and people we subscribe to. But it's good to get yourself well-versed in a lot of different musical opinions because no one's opinion about music is more important than yours. That's something everyone needs to know. What these jackasses say on camera doesn't mean shit when compared to what you think about an album. So tell us what you think. I'm interested. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Moving music critique forward.